Hello everyone, my name's Shadow and welcome to my nest. If you've been here long enough, you probably know that I love character design. I love imagining or reimagining how I convey a personality through my art, and I think this is very obvious when you look at my channel. But sometimes when you're an artist, you need to look back and figure out how your art changed. What improved, what still is a challenge, what got worse, etc. So today's video will be a little different from my normal videos because I'll be taking old pieces of art and redrawing them in my current style and my knowledge as it is now. Okay, so let's get to it. The first two pieces I've redrawn were actually inspired by Sonic Prime, and as you can see, the first one is actually Chaos Sonic from, I don't really remember what season, I think it was the second season. So yeah, I remember that I drew this piece when it was still, a trailer. It didn't had come out yet, so I remember I had to, piece myself the details about his design because it wasn't really out yet, so I don't know, it was really fun. And this piece actually was an art I made traditionally, but I thought it was, very cute and I wanted to color it digitally, so I did it digitally. And now I'm redoing it. I still really like this piece. I love the colors I used at the time, which was somewhat innovative because I don't usually use, pastels or saturated colors in his piece. As you can see, used a lot of pastels and very bright colors too. So it was very interesting. For the redraw, I didn't do anything much. I just, change a little bit on my line art process because I remember I used to keep the line art under the color layer, and I don't really know why I did that when I was younger, but I'm really glad that I don't do it anymore because it was rough. It was a rough time. But yeah, I really like the colors I used. One thing I did too was change a little bit the color palette because in the original piece you can see that I use a lot of colors. It wasn't really very balanced, so I tried to keep this piece to 3-4 colors to keep it consistent and don't change it a lot, But yeah, I really like it. I didn't do anything crazy for my rendering process. I just kept it simple because I think this piece really benefits from, being a little simpler, a little more, easy to replicate. I think it doesn't need to be very complex to, get the point across. And I really enjoyed redrawing this because honestly, Chaos Sonic is adorable. I have a soft spot for stupid characters, and he's the stupidest of all. I really love him a lot. So yeah, there wasn't really much for this design. It was just me having fun, and later you will see that I tried to put on a noise effect in the piece just so it can give off the robot vibes a little bit better. now for the 9 piece. Again, like I said, this is also from Sonic Prime. I really love 9's character. And when I figured out that a lot of people don't really like him, I got seriously very shocked because he was one of my favorite characters. I love Tails already, so seeing him in his evil emo phase, it was really neat. So I wanted, to portray a very dynamic pose and almost, defensive stance. I like to imagine that he's in a wall, literally pushed against the wall when he is, tired of running and is getting ready to jump on his enemy's face and tear them to pieces, because that's what you do, as you do. Sometimes you just gotta, use your 7 mechanic tails to rip your enemies apart, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, this piece originally was also one that really strayed from my usual style, most in the coloring and shading, because it was one of my first grayscale pieces ever. And I remember when I first did it, it was a challenge for me, especially in the shading too, because I don't think you can see it very properly, but the shading is actually done with, a point, with a lot of point brushes. It's not my usual shading style, and it was really interesting to make because I just think it conveys a sort of comic book style very well, and I really appreciate that, because I would really appreciate seeing 9 in a comic book. I would go crazy if he appeared on IDW, even if it was just a silly cameo. It would be, it would be just very, very cool and very nice. I want to see my boy again. I miss him. So yeah, I try to keep the background as, somewhat plain and colorless, just, as much as the character is. But I still wanted it to give a little bit of contrast, so yellow. It also, tied back to Tails' actual color, I think it would be very fun. And you will see later when I write his name on the background. I wanted to give it a, graffiti vibe to it, but I don't think I succeeded. And I also didn't like how the color turned out in the end. You will see it. I decided to go with blue, so it would connect to his eyes because they are blue. But I don't know, I think I could have done it better, but in the end I decided to keep it like this because the focus of the piece is not supposed to be his name on the background. It is supposed to be 9 himself. Maybe I will tweak this piece later, maybe I will change some things, but I'm not sure of it, because even though I'm not really satisfied with the background, I still really like how 9 himself turned out. I love his expression. I love that, he looks messed up. He looks as messed up as he should be, and I love that for him. My boy is a weirdo, and I love him for that. I don't know. I just really like how this piece turned out in the end. Hey there! This is a quick intermission to remind you guys to leave a like if you are enjoying this video, leave a comment if you want to suggest new ideas for my videos. I have a lot of plans in the making, and maybe your idea can make it to the list. And of course, subscribe to my channel if you like my art and my videos and you want to see more of me. I have a lot of fun ideas coming next, so I would seriously recommend you guys to subscribe and stand by just waiting for the next video. I can assure it will be very fun. So yeah, that's it. Let's get back into the video, shall we? Now getting out of Sonic for a little bit because if you leave me to it, I will mostly talk about Sonic. But yeah, let's go to another topic that recurs a lot in my channel, that is FNAF. This design, actually, if you were in this channel since the beginning, you might actually remember it because it was one of my first videos. And it's my human DJ Music Man design. Again, I didn't change his design a lot. The clothing is still the same. The bases of his design are still pretty much the same. I only changed a little bit the placement of the colors, some smaller details, and of course the art style, because again, in the beginning I used to keep my line art layer under the color layer because I don't know, because I was, crazy, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, I just really wanted to redraw him because I love this character with all my heart, and I really wanted to, portray him with the wonder that I see him, and my old design didn't, convey it as good as I can do now. So yeah, I chose him. I kept his color palette pretty much the same, although I struggled a little bit with it because it's hard to balance, black and white and neon green, pink and blue. Sometimes it can be really tough, especially when they are very saturated colors and you gotta make a balance so it won't be too much in the eyes. And I had to darken a little bit his color palette. I had to put a little bit more of black in his design because I didn't want it to be very monochromatic. I wanted to put a little bit of contrast in his design. And again, he has a very pale skin because he's albino, so yeah, his skin and his hair are very pale. So I wanted to compensate it for putting a little bit more of darker colors around these areas. And of course I decided to put some beads in his hair because I don't know, I just wanted him to look pretty. I just want my boy to look as wonderful as possible, and I think he would slay in his clothing style, and he does, and I'm really happy with how he turned out in the end. But yeah, the key elements are still the same as my previous design because this is a redraw. I just wanted to improve my art, not to completely change it. So yeah, the biggest changes were my art style, my render style, which by the way, I'm really proud of how his rendering turned out. I'm really happy that, he looks as good as he's looking right now because he deserves it. He deserves to look as wonderful, as beautiful, as handsome, as pretty as possible because he is one of the best characters in FNAF history. He's a king and he deserves to look like a king. I also improved a little bit the design of his mask because, let's be honest, the original design was lacking. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with his design, and I don't know, it was just great. I also tried to make, a more interesting background for him, because I'm also learning to improve on my background art. So yeah, I'm overall pretty happy with how this piece turned out. I'm really proud of myself with this one. Okay, so now we're changing a little bit. We're getting off of my usual, niche interests and going to one of my OCs, because I have hundreds of them and I really wanted to show you guys one of my sweet babies. I love this guy so much, which, by the way, his name is Ivan. He is a fish or an amphibian. I don't really know what is his species, but I just wanted to show him because he's my sweet boy. He's not a boy at all. He's like, I don't know, in his early 30s, I guess. He's already an adult man. He has kids. But anyways, I just really wanted to redraw him because I love him a lot. I love him so much. He's very precious to me. And yeah, I kept his design philosophy, the idea of his design pretty much the same as my first, rendition of him. But I decided to add a little more of non-human elements to him. For example, now his ears are, they have those fins united with them so he can swim better. I gave him membranes on his ears and nose so they won't get filled with water when he swims. I kept his gills on his neck, but I made sure that they were more visible now. And I decided to make his eyes, rounder and bigger and, very fish/amphibian like, because he's not a human, so he has no reason to look like a human. I also decided to keep his design, very pointy, although not really, sharp, but very pointy, to also give that point across that he is non-human. And I saturated the pink of his skin a lot more because his skin color originally was looking a lot human, and he looked like if you looked at his original design without paying attention, you just think he was a guy with some blue spots and a mohawk. You wouldn't see that he was non-human at all. And I wanted to amplify his weirdness, his, cryptid-like appearance for this design, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I also tried to make his color palette a little, I decided to give him more colors to work with. If you've seen the original design, his eyes, I think it's the sclera of his eyes, the white part, I guess, they were green. I decided to make it yellow because I really like the blue, pink, and yellow color palette, and I wanted to change some of his colors. And since green was the color that appeared the least, it was the green that had to go. Also, a fun fact about this guy is that he was actually inspired by one of my childhood toys. It was a fish that, I don't really remember the name of the collection, but it was a McDonald's, toy, and I still have it. I still remember it. I loved playing with my toy. and I decided to make an OC inspired by it, and this OC turned out to be Ivan, which is the guy I'm drawing right now. I also tried a little bit some different things with his shading and lighting because I'm experimenting a lot these days. But yeah, I don't know if I'll repeat the process. I'm not really, unsatisfied with how it turned out. I just don't know if it's the look I'm looking for. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this guy. I'm really happy with how it turned out because I love this boy so much. So that's it for today's video. It was not one of my usual videos, but it's good to change things a bit sometimes, and it really helped me with art block because I didn't really have to do much thinking. It was really cool to see how much I've improved and what I've learned along the way. But that's enough for today. Thank you for spending this time here with me in my nest, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!